Experience is the teacher for fools. So they say. Well, this is my experience. I was 20 years old when my dad died. We were so close. This was the most important person to me in my life at that time. I was in the third year of my university, pursuing a business commerce degree. Due to the financial constraints that were brought by his death, I had to drop out of the university. It was a huge blow to me. Only one more year left for me to complete my university studies. It resulted to an escalation of my drug abuse and alcohol use. Growing up, I remember at a young age of 8 years, I was taken to boarding school. My parents installed good manners in me. Discipline, I learned discipline in school. I had self-esteem issues, of course, concerning my height. I would do well in school, but deep inside I wasn't happy with whom I am. During holidays, I'd sneak into the minibar, steal some booze, and replace it with water, hoping that no one would notice. Sorry, Mom. Eventually, I was enrolled into a British system curriculum school. There, I really wanted to belong. I chose to join a clique of friends, the popular girls. We'd puff cigarettes, sniff tobacco, smoke marijuana, sometimes even lace it with hashish, just so it was cool. I went to pre-university in South Africa. I loved the freedom that came with it. I had no one to ask me where I was from, what I was doing. Most of my pocket money, I'd use it to buy the cheap liquor down there. I also tried weed cakes, weed cookies, and chocolate. I remember I was so interested in modeling career. So I joined a modeling agency, and then they put me on the plus-size model category. I admired the catwalk. The catwalk, it looked admirable, but it came with a certain stereotype. You had to be a certain weight. I was emaciated to participate, and so I tried slimming pills. So this time, when I came back on holidays, my dad's health had deteriorated. He wasn't looking too good. I opted not to go back to South Africa, and I joined the university here. And that's when he died. Immediately, my mom realized that idleness didn't quite work for me. So she offered me, she told me, you can join me in business. I was so aggressive in business. And so I convinced her to go out to Malindi on a business venture. In the process, I got conned. Goods worth about a little over $500,000. Okay, what was I going to tell her? Easier way out. I switched off my phone, took out my SIM card, and destroyed it. That was 2004. I detached myself from my family. It was me and me and me. All I needed was someone to tell me, you've not done that bad. You'll be okay. Someone to give me a hug and just tell me, I love you, even after all the mistakes you've made. And that's how I met the father of my 2 children. I moved in with him, and he was relocated to Nairobi. He was staying at Huruma Estate. I loved the community spirit at Huruma Estate. Coming from Lavington, no one would knock your door and ask for salt. But out there, they were knocking each other's doors and asking for salt. I loved that. I felt I belonged in that community. I'd use alcohol and marijuana And the father of my children would call his friends over, and they'd lay something else on this, and really look drowsy and look like they've had enough of it. And when I'd ask for it, they'd tell me, Dada, hii inaitwa usinionje. I was like, usinionje, but you're taking. So I became curious. And I'd ask and stretch my hand out, and they'd even hold it for me just to take a puff. And they told me, no, this is very addictive. And even worse, it can make you really slim. I'm like, bingo, perfect. I want to get slim. So I started to buy it on my own. I'd go into Valerie and buy the drug. That's cocaine, heroin. I was now using heroin to move on. I remember after giving back to my first child, I dumped him with my mother and continued with my life. I indulged into drugs. This time, the money I was making, convincing my relatives and obtaining money off them, wasn't working anymore. Everyone knew there was something not right. My family had realized that there was something wrong. My health had deteriorated. And so they tried counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists. Yeah. They'd prescribe mood stabilizers and tranquilizers for me. But that would only work for a short time. They diagnosed me with depression. But to cure myself, I needed to feel numb. And I started using prescription pills. I was addicted to prescription pills. The likes of Rohypnol, Valium, Domicam. I would love to lace them when I'm smoking this stuff. It would make me feel like there's nothing happening around me, just to numb myself. I wanted to escape reality. Nothing worked. Eventually, less than a year after, I got pregnant with my second child. This time, I remember a certain shoplifting incident, a well-known supermarket in Nairobi. It was on a Friday, and I was 8 months pregnant, and I was going shoplifting. And so I got caught. I had to stay in the cells from Friday so that I can appear in court on Monday. I had to sleep on the cement floor. It caused my water to break. They found it a bit tricky and they decided to let me go. So I struck a deal with the manager and promised him to come back to pay. That was it. Back to the drug dens to get my fix. On calling my family and convincing them to send me money to buy more drugs, of course, they didn't fall for it. They told me, just get home and we'll take you to the hospital. So I got to the hospital. The minute I was put on the stretcher, there she was, a 2.5 kg girl. But they had realized at the hospital that I'd left the child in the nursery and had just disappeared for some time and come back. So when my brother came to visit me, he didn't find me in the hospital. And they realized there was something wrong. I was going to the drug dens to get a fix and to have some takeaway on me, so that even as I'm in hospital, I have something to use. I was discharged the following day. I remember my brother coming to the hospital to pick me up. He fixed me up and he told me, we're going to Auntie so-and-so, to Valerie, and we're going to get you a nanny. Seeing as you're very busy and you like a lot of business, we'll get you a nanny who will help you raise this child. Little did I know, I was being taken to be admitted at Valerie Hospital. I was so resilient. I didn't want to go. I fought and I fought. They injected me a stopper. The following morning, I found myself in a cell at the Valerie Hospital, very bloody. What could I do? I would drink some porridge and escape. Fresh stitches, and I was out. I was devastated. I didn't understand. Where is my child? Good enough. My Auntie Dorcas, she held my hand, and she raised my child from 3 days old. I bless God for her. Well, it was now street life. I had no kids, according to me. I'd done prostitution. I'd tried everything. But now I needed fast cash, fast money. Prison now was a second home. At times, I even thought prison would be better because I'd be away from trouble for some time. I would go in the garage, get my body looking a bit better so I can go and do more bad stuff. I got to learn survival skills while in prison. I learned snatching, pickpocketing. I joined a gang who even taught me how to steal motor vehicle parts. I was into crime. I escaped the hands of the law severally. I escaped the hands of bloodthirsty, angry, hardworking citizens who just wanted me to die. But I thank God. I looked around me one day and I said, this is not the life for me. I remember I was on the street and I said, I really want to change, but what can I do? My family doesn't want me. I've messed up already. What can I do? And that's how I joined a street children and drug abuse support group called Maisha House. It's in Gara. It's a walking distance from town where I was living. There, they'd guarantee me of 1 meal a day, education on drugs, as well as 1 change of clothes, 1 bucket or half a bucket of water, and a little bar of soap. At least I would stay clean. But in the evening, I'd still have to go back to the street. I'd wait outside a windy shop, eagerly, for the cartons they didn't need. That's what I'd use to go spray down. Make my bed till morning. I thank God. I still rise. Indeed. When I was in Valerie Hospital, because I had to wait on the waiting list at the Maisha House for methadone. Methadone is a safe substance that's given to heroin users to wean them off so that they can stop using the heroin. But there was no methadone available for fresh users now. The supply was low. I was forced to self-medicate. I was angry. I wanted to stop this. I fasted for like 10 days, only drinking water. But as you all know, drugs are not left. Pop. So my mental health deteriorated. The street children got worried, 5 of them. They took me to Valerie Hospital. There I was taken care of by the social worker. After 1.5 months, I was given a discharge. I was mentally stable. What they usually do at Valerie Hospital, when it's time for you to go home, either your family comes for you, or they take you to your home. So the doctors asked me for my ID, which I had obtained when I was in the street. And looking back at the ID, the doctor looks at me and says, why don't you want to go home? I said, doctor, I'll go straight back into the drugs. If you take me to the village right now, I'll find any way possible just to get back to the street. And he says, wait a minute. Are you so-and-so's daughter? And I go, yes. And he asks me, do you know a certain job, or Dwar, or Wino? And I go, yes. That's the eldest of my first cousins. And he says, you might not know me, but I'm your relative. I'm an uncle to Job on his paternal side. I was calm. The following day, Job came to the Valerie Hospital. He hugged me. He embraced me. He said he loves me, even when I wasn't so lovable. And he told me about a rehabilitation program, a 1-year Christian discipleship program. It's a faith-based solution for the drug epidemic, namely Teen Challenge Kenya. On arriving there, the following day, I took a step of faith. I stopped taking the mental drugs. 2 weeks down the line, I accepted Christ. I experienced total peace. I realized I was carrying so many oppressions. I was unforgiving, first to myself. I was angry with God. Why? Why did he take my dad? I was resentful. I had a spirit of rejection. I rejected myself, and others rejected me. I had shame and guilt. I had to come to a point of self-realization. I'm standing here today. Parents, I urge you to rise up. Bring your kids up to a level of self-awareness so that they can get self-acceptance and know who they actually are and appreciate who they are. Family, I urge us to rise up. You might be having a loved one who's struggling deeply with addiction. And we throw our hands and say, "Uyo, tumechoka na yeye." Don't give up. The little hope that my cousin had in me, the faith that he had in God, the persistent prayers that he sent to God is what's validating my stand here. I urge us to rise up. You may be knowing someone, a friend, a neighbor, maybe even a stranger. Let's not go pointing fingers and going in disbelief and wondering, what's he doing there? Let's pray for them. I urge us to rise up. Let's rise up.